Is with us. Republican from Kansas, serves on the Homeland Security, Governmental Affairs, and Budget Committees. Great to have you in focus. I want to start with, without us, where would Israel be? I mean, is this really the road that we're going to risk going down, and what's at stake?
Well, listen, as I listen to those comments, Harris, I think about an old saying, a friend in need is a friend indeed. And Israel's always been a great friend to the United States. I think people are underestimating how much they've contributed to our safety and security as well with their intelligence. I want to remind folks that the blood of every person in Hamas is in Gaza is on the hands of Hamas, who broke this ceasefire, who started this war. That's where the blood is. The United States needs to stand firm beside the folks of Israel. And I know it's tough times right now. I remind you what President Eisenhower said, that I hate war as only a soldier who's lived it can, who's seen all its brutality and futility. Look, war is never pretty, but this is a war that was created by Hamas, and as long as Hamas has a presence there, there'll be no peace. Remember, they continue to say, death to Israel, death to America.
Oh, they're doing
That's
it
still
here.
Their goal.
Yeah, I'm sure you saw Dearborn, Michigan yesterday. I mean, you couldn't tell it from the streets of Tehran, the way that they were shouting death to America. Real quickly, you hit on something. They were already in a ceasefire on October 6th. That was what a ceasefire looked like. And October 7th reminded us what a ceasefire looks like in terms of Hamas. It's temporary.
Yeah, it is temporary as long as they have any type of organizational skills, as long as they have assets from Iran, as long as Iran is feeding them weapons, that they are going to continue to seek to destroy Israel and destroy America as well. And, these protests up here in the Capitol, let's talk about those just for a second. Number one, it's against the law to be inside the Capitol protesting. There are places you can do it with a permit. There's a right place to protest.
But that's not what happened yesterday.
It's not what's happened yesterday. They snuck in. And I would just talk about respect for your fellow American. It's very intimidating to the folks that work here. These are young staffers who feel threatened by these people coming in, shouting and yelling and screaming. This is not the right place to do it. I think there needs to be some respect. Again, I respect their ability to protest, but that's illegal, and they're back here today doing the same thing.
Oh, well, at least the Capitol Hill police are arresting them. 50 people yesterday. We'll cover it as it happens today. Look, I know you were recently in Japan, and we had some pictures of you actually with the prime minister, and he right now is at the White House with President Biden, and we're standing by for, how they always start out with the media for their kind of photo op at the very beginning, and there were some remarks there. So we want to show everybody that. But I first of all want to get your thought. How critical is Japan as Biden tries to figure out what to do in Asia with all the threats from China?
Yeah. So, Harris, in a world of uncertainty, in a world where there's threats of wars, Japan brings us certainty. Japan has been a great partner to the United States. Really, in all honesty, for the past 30 or 40 years, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a better partner than Japan has been. And it's not just their words, it's their actions. They are doubling their military expenditures right now, that they are committed to defensive retaliatory weapons. They're the home base for our largest naval fleet as well, and in many ways support our military forces there. They've been a great partner. They help financially support our military there as well. They're working incredibly well with the Philippines and as well as with South Korea. Prime Minister Kishida is actually being a great leader out there, and we need to stand fast with them. And remember, lastly, that they're part of this quad that's so important on containing China, this quadrilateral relationship with India, with Japan, Australia, and America. They're doing a great job showing great leadership.
You look at that, and I understand the quad. I wonder why it's not more people. I mean, China is a threat to anybody that China wants to be a threat to. Ask Taiwan. And so as we go forth, what do you understand about Joe Biden's policy as far as Taiwan? It's a little muddy coming from the administration and from the president. Sometimes they don't coincide.
Exactly. And I think, unfortunately, you're summing up what the Prime Minister of Japan is feeling as well right now. What they're saying is they're not sure they can depend on America there, that Joe Biden's very wishy-washy.
Excuse me, I'm going to step in. Hope you can stand by. The President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Japan.
Well, Fumio, welcome back to the White House. Welcome back to the Oval Office. It's good to have you here. Good to see you again. When we were here last year, we said the role being played by the United States and Japan is is becoming even greater. And I couldn't agree more with your assertion back then. And what we see in our joint support for Ukraine in the face of Russia's vicious assault is just outrageous.
再びホワイトハウスへようこそ、この執務室にまたいらしてくださったことを嬉しく思います。そしてまた会えたことで非常に嬉しい限りであります。昨年いらした時、総理は日本の役割がさらに大きくなっているとおっしゃいました。全く同感です。ロシアの残虐な攻撃に直面するウクライナへの共同支援や
We see it in our historic trilateral relationship with South Korea.
また私たちが持つ韓国との歴史的な三国協力
We see it in our economic investments, which has helped generate millions of jobs across both our nations.
さらには経済投資、これは日米両国で100万以上の雇用創出に貢献してきました。
And I sincerely want to thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for your bold leadership across all these issues.
なので、岸田総理にはあなたの大胆なリーダーシップに感謝申し上げたいと思います。
You personally have made all this possible.
総理個人の活動によりこれらが可能になりました。
And I would assert our alliance has never been stronger in our entire history.
でここで強調したいのは、日米同盟は歴史上かつてないほど強固な形であります。
So today I look forward to discussing how we can even deepen it more, including increasing defense and then technology and cooperation across the board.
そして今日、防衛や技術協力などを含むことに対し、どうすればもっとできるかについて議論するのを楽しみにしています。
And we can also discuss how we can continue to enhance and ensure Indo-Pacific remains a free, open, and prosperous region of the world with us standing together.
このほか、自由で開放的で富に満ち安全なインド太平洋であり続けるにはどうすればよいのかを話し合いたいと思います。
And thank you for being here, Mr. Prime Minister. You've heard me say this before, but I'll say it again. You're a genuine leader, a true partner, and a good friend. Thank you for being here.
改めてここに来てくださりありがとうございました。以前にも私がお伝えしている通り、あなたは真のリーダーだけでなく、真の同志であり、真の友人でもあります。
はい、上から大変心温まる歓迎のお言葉をいただきました。
All right, I'm going to bring in Senator Marshall just real quickly. The translation is not simultaneous. What do you make of right now, just in terms of the tone of this so far? I mean, should there be, well, let me just get the answer from you.
Well, what concerns me right now is this ugly American attitude. So Joe Biden started off by saying, hey, what do you think about Ukraine? So he's putting his agenda ahead of Japan's agenda.
It was odd.
I think it should be focused on what Japan is going on and focused on this incredible relationship, $300 billion of trade. We have a wonderful opportunity in space that they're helping us with. They're building the lunar module. From a Kansas standpoint, we've had increased exports of beef to Japan as well. So there's so many things to stress. I am glad that the president is acknowledging the prime minister's leadership, though. I do think that that's true. So there's good things in here, of course.
Yeah, it was surprising to hear him lead off with Ukraine. I wasn't quite sure why that had happened at that moment. We have the English translation now from the Prime Minister. Let's listen.
And we have nurtured a friendship and a trust along the way. Japan and the United States are now at the forefront in maintaining and strengthening a free and open international order based on the rule of law.
そして今や国際社会における持続的でそして包摂的な経済成長をリードする上で日本とアメリカは不可欠な存在になっています。
Japan and the United States are also indispensable now to each other in driving sustainable and inclusive economic growth as well.
ぜひ今回の訪米において日本とアメリカのこの固い絆を確認するとともに日本とアメリカがどんな未来を築こうとしているのかこれを世界にそして それぞれの国に対して、つまり内外に向けて示す貴重な機会にしたいと思っています。
Through this official visit, I look forward to confirming the robust bond between our two nations and demonstrate at home and abroad how Japan and the U.S. firmly bound together will build a future as global partners.
改めて温かいおもてなしに感謝を申し上げます。
So once again, thank you for your warm hospitality.
Thank you.
Why Japan now?
I'm told by my team, and I wanted to double check that there was a shouted question about the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. The president just sitting there and smiling and waving, and that's pretty, excuse me, one more time. Okay. He said we're still negotiating. It was hard to understand all the cacophony around there. That was said very softly. We are still negotiating. But meanwhile, that's kind of the traditional photo op that we get with some texture there. Can we bring back Senator Marshall? Because you were just there in Japan. What did you think about the Japanese Prime Minister's comments in terms of how they matched with ours? He talked about having a robust bond that they're going to work on today. Can they do that in a day?
It's interesting to me, Harris. His words were very measured. He said he wanted to confirm our relationship and hope that the U.S. would demonstrate, confirmed and demonstrate. Those are two very important words that he's using there. So he's saying that, look, we're wondering where the United States is in Indochina right now. Where exactly are you, Joe Biden? And then what are you going to do to demonstrate your commitment there? Yes, there's incredible economic opportunities between the two countries. I want to point out that Japan is the largest investor nation in our country. They hold the largest amount of our national debt as well. Those are important things to keep in mind. We're both motivated to keep these trades going and keep the seas open, all those things. But he's here to confirm where Joe Biden is. That's interesting.
So what is Japan's relationship with China compared with ours?
Yeah, so certainly there's a huge economic dependence, but China is a bully. Harris, it's just that simple. And they acknowledge that China is a bully. These two countries have been warring with each other for thousands of years, not 10 or 20, but thousands of years. But Japan's being a good neighbor. They're trying to demonstrate good allegiance. Again, they've got a $300 billion trade between them. But I would just say my assessment of Indochina, though, is that they are all being bullied. And mainly it's a pollution from China, that they're blocking off the rivers. The rivers are polluted. In Vietnam, they can no longer grow rice. So they're all feeling this pressure from this big bully China. China's not a good neighbor. This is an opportunity for the United States to step forward and be a true world leader and to be a good neighbor mostly.
Yeah. What you say has a most recent example for me as a journalist. I was in Vietnam the latter part of December. So just a few months ago. And you can feel that oppressive nature as you go north beyond Hanoi and head toward the border that Vietnam shares with China. I mean, that presence. And Xi, by the way, while we were on the ground, just came across unannounced. Like he can come into their country anytime he wants and uses that. And as you say, bullying is the key word. Let's move to this, because I think many Americans think they're being bullied on the issue with the border. There's a report today that President Biden could issue an executive order on his border crisis by the end of the month. It will dramatically limit the number of asylum seekers who can cross our southern border with Mexico. And this, of course, we know the timing of it. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is testifying on Capitol Hill, but Republicans did not send him the impeachment articles to the Senate, did not send them to the Senate today as planned. And so why is there a delay?
Originally, Senator Schumer had planned to do this on a Thursday when everybody is trying to get back to their districts. Isn't that special? Wonder why he picked a Thursday.
If we don't start it until the end of the week, that leaves us no adequate opportunity to debate it. And you don't want members trying to get out of town so quickly that they're influenced by the jet fume.
Well, the White House said this, and It sounds like it's spinning. The delay, it quote says, lays bare on baseless and devoid substance this whole PR stunt is. White House press secretary called it unconstitutional partisanship. What do you call it, Senator?
Well, listen, what your listeners need to understand is that Chuck Schumer, this is such a toxic subject for them that Chuck Schumer's not going to allow an impeachment trial. So as soon as these hit and he gets us all sworn in, he's going to table the motion. The first time in the Senate history that we're not going to proceed with an impeachment trial after getting the impeachment orders to proceed with. So this will set a horrible precedent. And by the way, any two Democrat senators could force an impeachment trial, but they don't want this. They do not want this to be on the front page.
Two. So let me get this straight, because we were reporting yesterday that this was going to happen today, that the House impeachment papers would go over against Mayorkas, would go over to the Senate. We didn't just learn that today was Thursday. So what kind of a play is this in terms of Chuck Schumer?
Well, I think that what we want to do is highlight exactly the crisis at the border. And you've brought that up, numerous times. 11 million illegal crossings under Joe Biden's watch. We want there to be an impeachment trial. Ultimately, Americans get the final choice, though, in November, that elections do have consequences. But meanwhile, we thought if we would delay this till Monday, we can try to force 2 or 3 Senate Democrats to say we need to have this trial.
I
think the good people from Montana, from Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, all those senators that are up for re-election come November, they're feeling the pressure. There's not a state out there now that's not a border state. We're all feeling the crunch right now. Everyone knows someone who died from fentanyl poisoning. And if you vote no, if you vote to table this, that's telling Laken Riley's family, we don't care about you. We don't care about her loss of life. 250,000 Americans have died from fentanyl poisoning. If we don't have this impeachment trial, it's telling them that we don't care. So I think we need to put the pressure on those senators.
Senator, last quick question. The president, we anticipate, is going to try to do what he didn't do before the State of the Union, even though he said he would, and that's use executive action. I guess now he's figured out he does, in fact, have the power. It's so mind-boggling why he's troubling with that, when he knows that Trump had it and he flipped Trump's policy. So real quickly, and we see him coming into Atlanta on the Trump plane right now. We'll get to that in just a second. But Senator, if Biden does something about asylum, what does that do to the issue of his border crisis? Does it cool it down? Does it solve the problem?
This is the number one defining issue of this election, is this open border. It's going to, the fentanyl that's already in this country is enough to kill every American already. Human trafficking is exploding. Crime is exploding. So it's too little. It's too late. And America knows exactly where he stands. If he's reelected, he opens the borders back up. Remember, he wants this problem. He wants these 11 million people crossing the border into this country. So it's too little, too late.
Yeah. He may want it, but it's a political headache for him now. So all he's going to do is delay, I would imagine, if he takes any action. Senator, so wonderful to have you in focus today, handling the breaking news with me and so much more. God bless you.